Darya Dugina's assassination was almost certainly organized by the Russian FSB. Assuming this is true, then 1. Order must have been implicitly given by Putin. 2. It was Darya, not Alexander, who was the target. 3. Alexander knew it, of course. He's just making show for a public. If Alexander was notified about the impending assassination of his daughter Darya, that explains the strangeness with changing cars. Alexander took her car, while she took his one. Why? Most probably the plan was to present Alexander Dugina as the real target of assassination. That had an additional benefit. If we make the world believe that assassins targeted Alexander, but got Darya, the entire operation looks clumsy. It looks as if it is done by someone who does not have full control over the situation and over the territory, not by Russians. It is the perceived clumsiness of the operation. They wanted to get a dad but got his daughter. That makes it look as if it is done by the Ukrainians. If it was done by the FSB, who fully control Moscow, they would kill the person whom they intended to kill. Maybe they did. If Putin wants to escalate the war in Ukraine or political purges within Russia, he needs a pretext to justify his outrage. Some terrorist attack preferably. And Putin can't just blow up residential houses with no names. He had already used this trick before. An overly ambitious golden kid who, 1. Privately advertises herself as a person who knows how to fight a war in conversations with influential people. 2. Wants to sell herself as the Russian nationalist leader. 3. Damaged relations with her dad. Would be a perfect candidature. It's not that Putin saw Darya as a threat. That's highly implausible. It's much more probable that he was actively looking for a sacrificial animal, and sacrificing someone troublesome kinda makes sense. Solve two problems at once: big one, pretext for escalation, and a small one. Alexander was probably notified about this decision only after it was taken, but if it was the dad who suggested his daughter as a sacrificial animal, I wouldn't be much surprised. Perhaps he knew what she's telling about the great and wise Dugin behind his back. Disclaimer: I consider anyone who genuinely feels sorry for a kid equals 30 a war propagandist and a war crimes advocate. While the Ukrainian residential areas have been under bombing and shelling for months to be an absolute disgrace. That's well understandable though. An interesting thing about the pornosophils is that you could show them a young woman and they gonna support whatever agenda ideology. Propagandists use this weapon so often cause it works. That's it. Wankers gonna wank. Pornosophilia levels in the internet are truly astonishing. Perhaps I underestimated how common this diagnosis is, while Putin got it correctly. That's why he chose a young woman rather than her old grey dad as a sacrifice lamb. It absolutely works. Apparently, 1. Darya Dugina was almost certainly killed by the FSB. 2. She was chosen exactly because she kinda fits into a young maiden stereotype. She makes a better sacrificial lamb than her dad. 3. Kremlin did it to get a pretext for escalation in Ukraine and/or purges within Russia. Darya Dugina was the opposite of innocence. That creature called for the total war publicly, but laughed over her own public agenda privately, seeing it as a joke. She thought she would boost her career at the cost of others' lives, but her higher-ups decided otherwise. The end.